How to build community when you don't really like humans. Humans. Can't live with them, can't build a society without them. They leave trolleys in car parks. They vote for reform. They clap when the plane lands. And yet, somehow, we're told the only way forward is to build community with them. So here's the question. How do you build community when you don't even like people? Especially people who are racist, or at least racist adjacent. Two types of racism. Let's get nuanced. There are two very different categories. One, overt racists, the one who will look you in the eye and say, good, let them drown. That's not just ignorance, that's cruelty dressed up as patriotism. Here we run into what philosopher Karl Popper called the tolerance paradox. How tolerant can you be of intolerance? At some point, defending humanity means drawing a line. And then there's two, the unconscious bias. Far more common, far more slippery. These are people who genuinely don't see themselves as racist. They'd swear blind they treat everyone the same, and often in daily life they do. But the research shows they still operate with double standards they can't see. For example, a CV with the name Mohammed gets fewer callbacks than the exact same CV with the name Michael. Teachers are more likely to discipline black children for the same behaviour they'd ignore in white kids. This doesn't mean these people are consciously hateful. It means the culture has carved invisible grooves in their minds and they're sliding along them without noticing. Books like Blind Spot, Hidden Biases of Good People and Everyday Bias show how deeply these biases run. The work here isn't to attack or shame, it's to hold up a mirror gently so people can notice the double standards from themselves. Each category requires a different approach. With overt racists, it's about calm strength and refusing to meet hate with hate. With unconscious bias, it's about inviting people to look again at themselves. When hatred is blatant. So what do you do when someone says the quiet part loud? You ask, but what about the children crossing in dinghies? And they say, not my problem, they deserve it. That's the tolerance paradox made flesh. You can't just let that stand, but screaming back rarely works. The trick is to stay rooted in your values. Calm, but firm. Think of it like Aikido. You don't meet force with force, you redirect it. One line you might try, I hear your anger, but I won't accept cruelty as a solution. I don't want to live in a world where children drowning is okay. Do you? You're not trying to win a debate. You're holding up humanity as the standard. This is where a socialist vision would still cut through. The real enemies of our communities aren't desperate people on boats. They're the billionaires and politicians who defund services, stir up division, and leave us fighting each other while they walk off with the money. Case studies. It can be done. It's tempting to think racists never change, but they do. Slowly, painfully, through relationships. Derek Black, son of a KKK Grand Wizard, he was deep in the movement. What changed him? Not someone owning him in a debate. Jewish students at his college kept inviting him to Shabbat dinner, week after week. Calm, patient, unflinching. Eventually, he left white nationalism and now speaks against it. Megan Phelps-Roper, raised in the infamous Westboro Baptist Church, she left after long, thoughtful conversations on Twitter. Not screaming matches, but curious, consistent questions that made her rethink. Daryl Davis, a black blues musician who befriended dozens of KKK members. Over years, through dialogue, he convinced many to walk away from the Klan. His line? How can you hate me if you don't even know me? Exit Germany, a program helping neo-Nazis leave the far right. Their model? Relationships, empathy, practical help with housing and jobs. They don't argue people out of hate, they rehumanize them out of it. The principle, though, is always the same. Calm persistence, love in your heart, but boundaries intact. Humour, carefully used. Now, humour. Not an obvious tool in racism debates, because you don't want to trivialise suffering, but humour can be a pressure valve. It breaks tension, undercuts slogans, exposes contradictions. If someone says, immigrants are stealing all the jobs, you could deadpan, mate, I've seen you work, no one's stealing your job. That kind of humour doesn't solve racism, but it opens a crack in the armour. Laughter loosens defences, and once defences drop, sometimes humanity can get in. The rule, never punch down at victims, always punch up at the absurdity of the prejudice. And in Britain, where banter is a national sport, sometimes a well-timed laugh achieves more than a lecture. The principles for change. So what do all these stories and studies actually tell us? Patience. You're planting seeds, not harvesting fruit. Compassion. See hatred as suffering. Not to excuse it, but to know where to apply the antidote. Boundaries. Compassion doesn't mean tolerance of cruelty. Some things you confront directly. Mirror work. With unconscious bias, the goal is to help people see what they couldn't. Community. People rarely change alone. They change because they're invited into a better us. This is again why socialism at its best isn't just about policy. It's about solidarity. It's about saying, your struggle is my struggle, and together we're stronger than the forces dividing us. And this is where Thích Nhất Hạnh comes in. He taught that understanding is love's other name. Deep listening, he said, is the kind of compassion that allows transformation. When we really listen, not to reply, not to win, we open the door for someone to change. Planting trees you'll never sit under. And here's the heart of it. Martin Luther King said, "Even if I knew tomorrow the world would go to pieces, I would still plant my tree." That's what this work is. When you plant a seed of compassion or a seed of justice, you may never live to see it grow, but it doesn't matter. Because the act of planting, or choosing love over hate, humanity over cruelty, that is the work. Building community when you don't even like humans isn't about liking them. It's about refusing to abandon them. So go out, plant your seeds, have the awkward conversations, crack the joke, draw the line. Because even if you never sit in the shade, someone else will.